let's establish some order for our tier list. This is not going to be a difficulty ranking. This is going to be a quality ranking. Did I enjoy my time with this fight? And I think all of my opinions are objectively correct. How could I be wrong? I beat all of these bosses with a Guitar Hero controller. I kind of ordered it how I played through the game. The first boss you ever see, our beloved Moss Mother. So this is why it's a quality ranking and not a difficulty ranking. Because obviously, if it's like a difficulty ranking, then Moss Mother is just gonna go in F tier, right? But she's the tutorial boss. She's supposed to instill you with confidence for the journey ahead. I think this fight is good enough as like an introductory boss 5 minutes into the game. It's not a super complicated boss. She summons some enemies that aren't really threatening, flies back and forth and drops some rocks on your head. But like, we're 5 minutes into the game. It's only gonna go up from here. Not using the guitar to do the tier list? Kind of cringe, streamer. Kind of weird. So the next boss you see after Moss Mother is everyone's favorite doggo, the Bell Beast. I think Bell Beast was a good fight. I finished Bell Beast and I'm pretty sure I said that was a cool fight, especially this early. I think it goes in the B tier. B for Bell Beast because it sets the standard that, hey, every boss is going to hit you for 2 damage. You better learn to start moving around, use your jumps, dodge these attacks, do not get hit, position well. I like the variety of attacks Bell Beast has. 2 different attacks where it comes out of the ground. It could jump, fly over you, or it could go straight at you, and you could get rewarded for either pogoing, reacting the right way, and then it has the 2 different speed bells when it pops out of the ground when it goes to phase 2. For an early game boss, Bell Beast gets a thumbs up from me. This was not a named boss, but oh my god, did he feel like a boss. This was the first enemy where I ran into them and I was like, maybe I need to come back to this. There's a few times you fight him throughout the game, so I'm kind of gonna lump them all together. And there is one specifically where he is in a room with a flying enemy, and it is an extremely small room. And it is garbage. He basically encompasses the entire area with his swing and his jump, while this flying enemy is just throwing projectiles at you and running away from you. It is a miserable time. The worst part is he has 2 moves. You stand next to him and he can swing. If he does that one, you run away. If he jumps, you run under him. And that's literally all you have to do, and he will never hit you. Lace number 1. I would say this is the first major boss. Probably A or B. I think A. Lace 1 has a lot of good things going for it. Aesthetic is great. It's a very, very fun fight. Very reminiscent to me of the first Hornet fight in Hollow Knight, where after that happens, the game kind of starts to pick up. That's a generous ranking considering Lace gave you nothing but L's. I beat Lace 1 first try. Why are you lying? She gave me exactly 0 L's. She was just a fun boss. She has a well-telegraphed moveset. Everything about her is good. The next boss you run into is the 4th chorus. This might be a hot take, and I don't know if there's any other 4th chorus enjoyers, but this boss is so much fun. When this fight ended, I was so excited to keep playing the game. The way 4th chorus is designed, with you just got a new ability of the float, it does a fantastic job of reinforcing this is how you use the float. He does the swipe, float over it as he's swiping. He breaks the floor. You have to float between the platforms to get to the other platform. Then he has a way to beat him quickly. When he opens up the wind that goes up, you can float to the top and hit the rock and explode the rock and drop it on his head. Aesthetically, one of the coolest looking bosses. I don't think anything will make me budge 4th chorus out of S. Skull Tyrant, you get a bounty board quest. It says, hey, there's this dude terrorizing whatever, this area. Go find him. And you track him down to his lair, and that part's really cool. And then you fight him, and it's not as cool because he's really boring. He kind of doesn't do anything. He kind of just like runs back and forth and then you jump over him, and then sometimes he drops rocks on your head, which is kind of what Moss Mother did, but Moss Mother did that 5 minutes into the game. This guy's just doing it with a bigger hitbox, but because of the tracking part of the quest, I think he goes up for me to C instead of D. Our first boss that was nerfed. Morwing is an interesting boss because you can skip him. I ran into Morwing and I fought him twice, and then I remembered that I had the flea quest, and I was like, oh, let me go turn this in, because he killed me twice, and I was like, okay, let me see if I get something from this. And then the fleas go to where you encounter Morwing, and he's not there anymore. So I think your mileage on Morwing might be when you fight him, because you might have a few more upgrades, you might have a little bit more health. He is definitely the most mechanically intensive boss to this point in the game. He swipes at you with his feet, he swoops across the whole screen, he has 2 different saw attacks. The saws have like a weird pattern where they curve back in and try to attack you. But yeah, I think he's a good fight. I don't think he's like super top tier. I think he's complicated enough to like start bumping the difficulty as you move through the early game. The second boss that got nerfed, Sister Splinter. Did not like the Sister Splinter fight my first time through. You guys will see this as we go through the tier list. I generally do not like boss fights that have ads in them as a way to make them more difficult. And that was like a lot of the frustration with the Sister Splinter fight. I kind of want to put her in D tier. I don't know what they did to nerf her, so I'm just going to speak from before they nerfed her. She would summon the ads, and I think it took like 4 hits to kill them. And the ads would hit you for 2, and they were flying ads. They would run away from you. And then she also has the vines that limit your space to move. Like, obviously you could break them. There's ways around it, but I found myself not having fun with the fight because she really only has 2 moves. The thing where she stomps down with her claws 3 times, she goes left, right, left, and then she can shoot the vines down from the ceiling and like close off space for you. I don't think I could put her higher than D. She's like a boring fight, and the only difficulty in the fight comes because she summons flying Beyblade enemies. After you beat Sister Splinter, you get to probably my favorite Act 1 boss in Widow. Widow is such a good fight. I would say for her place in the game, Widow could definitely be the first wall somebody would encounter. Her use of the bells is really cool. They bounce at like different angles. She moves really quickly. She has the attack where she summons all the stuff out of the floor, which gives you time to heal. Swipe attack, I think, is well telegraphed enough if you're far away from her to get away from it, but you're risking that attack coming out quickly if you're close to her, so like you gotta give and take. The big fake out death actually got me so good. I did not think at all that that fight was gonna have another phase, and then everything from the first phase just gets ramped up, and it feels really good when you get everything right in this fight. Exact kind of fight I want to do. And then we go from the absolute peak of Widow to the absolute dog water that is Savage Beastfly, our first F tier boss. 0 redeeming qualities about Savage Beastfly fight. This is the fight for anyone who's unfamiliar. You're put in a room that's about this big. Look at my hand, right? And then you fight an enemy that's about this big, and then he also summons other enemies randomly. Does 2 damage if you bump into him, and he flies back and forth across the little tiny room as an active hitbox while summoning other enemies to also fill the room. It's just not fun at all, and your reward is the worst crest in the game. I never want to fight Savage Beastfly again, but if you look over here, we're gonna have to fight him again. They said, hey, did you like Moss Mother? What if there were 2 Moss Mothers at the same time? This fight does not do anything interesting. It just puts 2 hitboxes in a small room and then spawns other hitboxes. I don't think it's more fun than the first Moss Mother fight. We're talking about like refights, so let's just talk about the refights, honestly. So at some point, you're sitting on the bench in Bone Bottom, and then all of a sudden, the Skull Tyrant returns, runs you over, and breaks the bench and like destroys part of Bone Bottom. And that's really cool, but then it's just the same exact fight as the other Skull Tyrant. Maybe he has more health. The fight's honestly easier. You have more room to move around and dodge his attacks and dodge the rocks. The surprise of him attacking makes him B C tier. I don't want to talk about Savage Beastfly 2 yet. We'll put him like over here. The duo fight of the conch flies. Honestly, I beat this fight first try, and I don't remember a lot about it. I know they just do like their diagonal dashes and they like dash across across the screen at different times, and it's kind of cool when you jump in between their attacks and find opportunities to get hits in on them. They're just like an average boss. They're inoffensive, so they'll go in C tier. The last judge. Very good fight. At this point in the game, the most difficult boss, I think. This boss took me longer than any other boss. The thing was, when I was fighting this boss, every time I messed up, it always felt like it was my fault. I think it's an extremely fair fight. I think it's well telegraphed. The thing for me, the arena's just like a little bit too big, so the screen scrolls and she can go off screen sometimes. She has attacks that go across the whole screen with a dash and leave like a trail of fire behind her, and then you kind of have to stay over there, and you don't know what attack she's doing next. She has so many attacks, but all of her attacks felt super fair. If you knew it was coming, you could dodge all of them pretty easily. Other thing that keeps this boss from being S tier, when you beat this boss, people will say there's an indication this is going to happen because she starts to go on fire. Oh, you can tell she's gonna explode. Stop. She explodes and does 3 damage to you. I think I had 4 health when I beat her, so I lived on 1. And if you die to the explosion, you have to do the fight again. Just like a cheap way to try to get a death on somebody. That keeps her at S tier for me. Even though it didn't get me, I'm showing empathy for those who have perished to the last judge explosion. Cogwork Dancers. This is like a pretty easy S tier fight. It's a duo fight. Every single move they do, there's a line telling you, hey, this is where they're going. This one's going this way. This one's going this way. Boom. Dodge accordingly. That happens 3 times, and every time they get faster. And then the saddest phase of any boss fight, where you don't get 2 cogwork dancers anymore because you broke one of them, and one of the twinks has to dance alone until you kill them, and I can't take it. It gets worse later. But yeah, everything about the fight, the music, the way it builds, the way the moves are telegraphed, 10 out of 10. S tier fight. Put it in the rafters. Retire its jersey. I'm pretty sure Forge Brothers are supposed to guard something for the late game, and I fought them in like the mid game, so they were pretty hard, but they were really fun. The last phase of the fight is just so good when both Forge Brothers are fighting you and their moves offset, where one's throwing stuff from far away, the other one's charging at you. They do not overlap their stuff in a way where it's impossible to dodge ever. The sequence before, where it's just the one Forge Brother and he's summoning ads, kind of keeps this from being higher up. And also that the arena has lava on the sides, where if you bump into the lava, you take 2 damage. Oh, is it that time already? We kept putting them off. Let's talk about the Savage Beastfly refight. Remember how I said Savage Beastfly 1 was like a gigantic enemy in a small space where his hitbox just did 2 to you and he flew back and forth across the screen? Now what if I told you it was a giant hitbox in a small arena where the floor breaks away and the ads that he summons are flying and they spit explosive bullets that stick to that limited space you have on the floor? I think this fight took me the longest out of any fight in the game other than like the last 2 bosses that I fought. I think the Savage Beastfly refight has more merit to it than the first one. You have more room to like jump over him than you do in the other one, but the ads, the flying skeleton bugs that spit the lava bubbles that do 2 damage and stick to the floor when your floor is already a piece of floor that collapses. So it's the same floor from the 4th chorus, and they're like, oh, 4th chorus broke the floor. Everybody loves 4th chorus. He's an S tier. Why can't we make Savage Beastfly do that? Everyone will love him. Thank goodness after Savage Beastfly, we get to talk about Dromio. That's an S tier fight, baby. I love Dromio. His introduction, the music, the aesthetics, his flamboyance, the design of his attacks. My man is shooting tornadoes and fireworks and throwing cherry bombs at you and popping up through the stage. Everything about him is perfect. Some people might say, oh, the balls bounce and kind of cut off some spots for you to dodge. Jump on the wall, idiot. Do something. Dance with Trobio. His performance is perfect. Yuck. We're up to the conductor melody fight. Okay, so this guy isn't a named boss, it's kind of hard to rank him. He's not a boss that you can ever fight alone, right? You always have to do the entire conductor melody to fight him. In the conductor melody, you fight this guy by himself, and then the last thing is two of the same enemy. This is an enemy that by himself is extremely easy. Honestly, is one of the easiest waves of the entire fight. But the last wave feels like complete luck, and I don't think it's fun. There's things you could do to mitigate the luck, and the more I've done it when I learned like the speed run, they don't attack at the same time usually, but the way their attacks work, they're big giant hitboxes in a small room, and they also make explosions that take up a large portion of the room. So if you get attacks that overlap, you take 2 damage really quickly, and then you're trying to dodge, and then maybe you mess up your dodge because you took damage, and now boom, you took 4 damage, and then all of a sudden you're dead. And it doesn't feel like it was your fault. Like, you have to hope they do certain attacks to have any room to do anything. So I kind of want to put them in F tier, and they're also at the end of a very difficult gauntlet. So the first time you see them, probably are going to die, and then you have to do a 10+ wave gauntlet just to get back to them again and see what's going on. After I did Conductor Melody, I did fight Lace 2 immediately. Is Lace 2 A tier or S tier? I think Lace 2 is S tier for me. The thing with Lace 2 is how well it builds on this Lace 1 fight. She keeps every move she did, except they're all faster. They all might have a little extra sauce on them. The atmosphere of this fight feels like you're closing in on the end of the game. You're not, but it feels like it at the time. So the one thing that I was hesitating on putting her in S tier for, she throws out the counter so fast sometimes. It's very punishing for trying to attack an opening that you thought you had and then you just didn't. No, she's still S tier. Because like once you know that, you can fight with that in mind. I keep hesitating. I kind of want to drop her. I'll leave her S tier for now. So I found Phantom pretty late. You could fight Phantom instead of Last Judge to get into Act 2. Phantom's another fight where everything's well telegraphed. A lot like Lace, which makes sense in the lore because they're sisters. Fights like Hornet, where she has the long dashes across the screen, she throws needle at you. The aesthetics and music of the exhaust organ are really, really, really good. I think if I fought this boss earlier, I might have put her S. Phantom might be S tier. Is there anything I don't like about this fight? Kind of think Phantom is S tier and Lace 2 is A tier, because Lace 2, I can think of 2 things that I don't like about it, and Phantom, I can't think of anything I dislike about the fight. I kind of think this is right. Yeah, put Lace 1 in B tier. This is Broodmother, I think her name is. This is another gigantic hitbox enemy that spawns ads in a tiny room. And as you can see, gigantic hitbox enemies in tiny rooms aren't doing too hot. She has 2 redeeming qualities. She does the bouncing off the walls attack where she goes like poof, 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 poof. And it reminds me of Gruzmother from Hollow Knight. And then when you kill her, you rip her eyeball out, and that's kind of sick. Other than that, fight's kind of trash. The giant flea, when you get up there and he goes, oh, woo! But he does it in like a deep flea voice, you know, like a manly voice. He goes, oh, woo! I don't even think he's a named boss, is he? I would say Giant Flea is just Skull Tyrant if Skull Tyrant was adorable and flew in the air. So he'll go at the bottom of C tier, just because he's cute. C for cute. Next boss, Second Sentinel. This was a cool boss. This thing has a really, really wide variety of attacks. I like the big X attack that it did. It had like 1 or 2 jank hitboxes that I didn't love. It also felt like it had a absolute metric butt ton of health, and the fight just like went on a little too long. A solid B fight. An area that I'm sure everybody really, really, really enjoyed. Bile Water, that ends with our boy Grohl the Great, I think his name is. I don't know. He's a giant frog. Separate the art from the artist. Everything surrounding Grohl is miserable. The run back to Grohl, even if you get the second closer bench, having to get infected by maggots like 90% of the time on the way there, having to deal with the explosive enemies, likely taking some damage during the gauntlet fight before he appears at the end of the gauntlet. Bile Water might be my least favorite area in any video game ever. I'm prefacing this with that. If we're just ranking the boss fight, to be fair to our boy Grohl, he's like a B. I think the boss fight against him is well designed. The floor in the arena, being able to take away your ability to heal, did not need to be a thing. And having to fight an arena to fight him every single time takes away from him. So Grohl has like a lot of cool things going on. Grohl shoots soul magic because he killed the snail shaman, or the snail shaman died in that area, and I'm pretty sure Grohl ate him so he could shoot the soul magic. When he eats you with the vacuum attack, you can attack him from the inside and it does damage to him. I don't think anything he does is that unfair other than like maybe the bouncy ball. He's better than all of these bosses. There's no way if you asked me, hey, do you want to fight Grohl forever or do you want to fight Skull Tyrant forever, that I'm picking Skull Tyrant. I think he's a good boss in a bad situation. I can fix him. So after I did all that, I was like, I don't think there's anything left for me to do in this game. Let me go fight Grandmommy Silk, the boss that I thought was the final boss of the game, at least A tier. She might be S tier. When I first got into the fight with her, she reminded me so much of the Radiance that it was disgusting. Like the way she attacks, the challenge thing, she comes out of the cocoon, the needles coming down, or just like the Radiance sword, she brings spikes up from the floor. Two things that would keep her out of S tier for me. Gonna sound like a weird complaint. I think she's like a little bit too easy. Like the first phase of the fight before the fake out death doesn't feel like I'm fighting a higher being. Once we get to phase 2, the floors has spikes coming up, the attacks are going left and right, she's doing double strands with her silk attack, the rocks are falling from the ceiling. Then I'm like, all right, there's something going on here. Maybe you are pulling the strings, you know? This just might be a me thing. Something in the tum-tum that says she's not S tier. We move to Act 3. Likely the first boss you're gonna run into in Act 3. Unless you're an absolute psychopath who doesn't try to call the Bell Beast, is the Bell Eater. I didn't really like this fight. If you got a bad spawn on the booty and the head and they overlapped the attacks where they shot projectiles, it kind of felt like you just had to get hit. The head can swipe at you or spit, and then the butt just like shot 3 bullets. This fight's biggest redeeming quality is that when you win this fight, Bell Beast jumps in, takes this gigantic centipede underground and kills it, and then pops back up with her babies. It is one of my favorite moments in the game. If that game said roll credits at that point and you and Bell Beast rode off into the sunset while Farloom was pulled into the abyss, I would have been okay with that. The next thing I'm pretty sure I did in Act 3 was find the Pinterest. I don't know if this is a hot take. I didn't really like this fight. I thought it was boring. She's like worst second sentinel to me. Took 8 billion years to kill, and I never felt like I was going to die. She just would like fly away and then throw needles at me, and I'd wait. And then she'd fly to the other side and throw needles at me, and I would wait. And then I'd hit her once, and then she'd do the same thing. And then she'd do the X attack, and then I'd hit her once, and then she'd fly away for like a full minute again. I think she's just like the epitome of a C tier boss, actually. She's not bad. She's just kind of there. So I went back and found Luigi, the disgraced chef, and his dump truck ass of doom. If Luigi wasn't as thick as he wasn't double cheeked up, he'd probably be C tier. I do think it's kind of annoying that he can infect you with the maggot thing, but I put on the maggot resist tool after he infected me the first time, and I kind of just whooped him after that. Not only is he thick, he throws that booty around as an attack. For how big he is, he's pretty good at telegraphing and giving you enough time to react to move in a somewhat small arena. And then even if you do get infected, you could kind of recover from that and just keep fighting him. I think he's like a good goofy boss. Zurgo is like more or less a gimmick boss. The best part about Zurgo, I got to use the rosary gun against him, and I just took it and started shooting like a madman into him. You have to damage him fast enough to get through all of his health before he regens it, and he doesn't really do anything besides walk back and forth and then shoot plasmium. He does 2 damage if he hits you with the plasmium, and by the end, he's kind of just throwing it everywhere while you're trying to race to do damage to him. But he's more of a puzzle than a boss to me, and he's pretty boring. The Unraveler, the Unraveled, I forget what this guy's name is. He kind of sucks though. This is just gigantic, awkward hitbox in a small arena. Does 3 things. He goes back and forth on the screen, and then the most annoying part about that is that his cape trails behind him and you can't see it because it like blends in with the floor in the background, and is also a hitbox and you land on it sometimes. And then he spits enemies or like wads at you or something, and then he has spears that like fall out of the sky. Intermittently, you'll have to fight ads in between waves of fighting him. On top of that, he also has too much health. Everything about him was not fun other than the presentation. I think D tier is appropriate for him. So we go from a boss that was pretty bad to one of the best bosses in the game. The first is Sinner. Oh baby, what a boss. Embodies everything I like in these fights. Super fast, well telegraphed, punishable windows, fun moves to dodge, aesthetically cool, everything about her fantastic. Mwah, chef's kiss. All I know is when I did this fight, I became one with the sin, baby. I was in there and we just did a beautiful dance and I had so much fun. Wish every boss fight was the first Sinner. S tier, easy. Hog Fly 2. This boss sucks. You thought you were done with Savage Beastfly. Little did you know, Savage Beastfly had a brother, the Savage Conch Fly. Again, this is a gigantic hitbox in a small room. This one is even faster than Savage Beastfly. He zip zooms around, takes up the entire room, and then shoots the most diabolical projectile you've ever seen. This stupid thing goes right at you. You think it's gonna hit you? No, it doesn't, because you jumped. Cool, I'm so good at this video game. Psych. The thing bounces off the floor and then angles itself right up your ass and hits you for 2 damage. I hated this boss so much. We get to go from the garbage that is the solo Savage Conchfly to the beauty that is a Trobio. But he listens to a lot of Pierce the Veil and My Chemical Romance. I do think it's a little bit worse than the first one, only because his attacks do overlap just a little bit. The fight is everything that's good about Trobio 1. It's all of his attacks just with like increased speed, increased like covering of the screen, or like another added effect to them. I kind of want to put him A, to be honest. I'm kind of just being biased because I'm a big Trobio lover and I like the color purple. Nah, I can't do that to my man Trobio. I can't leave him down there. It's impossible. He's too perfect. We go from the greatness of Trobio to my pick for arguably the most boring boss in the entire game. I don't even remember this person's name. Gruck the Hunter, something like that. This is just a fat guy that he throws a thing, he goes poof, and then it sits there, and then it expands, and then he jumps out of the ground, and he does that again, and then you just can't go in that area, and then you wait for him to come back to the screen, and you smack him again, and then he dies. Kind of sucks, because it was such a cool lead-up, but just a boring fight. We said Cogwork Dancers was sad. Lost Garmond might be sadder than Cogwork Dancers. Zaza comes and gets you. Look at this little adorable bug, his best friend. Look at what they used to be. Zaza's worried. She leads you to him because he's infested by the abyss, by the void, and it's too late by the time you get there, and you have to put him down. And then once he dies, Zaza refuses to leave his side. Every time you go back, she's just there being sad. I don't even remember what happens in the fight because of the emotional damage. From what I remember, not a very complicated fight. Kind of just goes back and forth waving his sword at you. He shoots void projectiles at you. I think the emotion of the fight might bring it up to like a B tier, honestly. I don't remember this thing's name. The purple lightning thing in the coral area. Voltverm. I knew it. I was just testing you guys. I think this boss has 2 attacks. Lightning straight up and down. Super well telegraphed. Lightning in ball shape. Super well telegraphed. Inoffensive. Can't be higher than C tier when you only have 2 attacks. Especially for being as late in the game as this thing is. What's this guy's name? Burning Man? The tree? The bed of chaos? I don't know. It's not bed of chaos, but like it had to have somewhat been inspired by bed of chaos, because you have to like break open all these things on him and then you can damage him. The whole time you're being chased by like homing fire while you're trying to pogo around this tree that's on fire, and then after that he like gets angry and then there's more fire. You kind of just smack him in the middle and then he dies. Not a boss that I would say I want to fight this boss again when the pantheons come out. Craw King, King of the Craw, big thick bird, only out-thicked by Luigi. So this boss you only find after you get your Craw summons, and I got the Craw summons and I spent like 30 minutes going to places that weren't named Craw Lake, but I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about the boss. He's fine. It's another boss at the end of a gauntlet. The gauntlet is just all the bird enemies from Craw Lake, and then during his boss fight he summons more of them. He himself is pretty basic as well. Memorable for the way you get there and being a thick thick bird with a beautiful head of hair, just like me. Thick with a beautiful head of hair. So this next guy was actually the only boss that I did not find on my own before beating the game. So he was technically the last boss I fought. I fought him one time and I accidentally cheesed him. I didn't know this. There's like a spot you could make him jump and he gets stuck and then he just is there and you just beat the shit out of him until he dies. I don't really remember the fight that much because I just remember the second half of it where I cheesed him. He has like a lunging jump attack. He has another attack. He seemed like he wasn't that complicated. He was good. He had a good arena. He had a cool fight. I don't know if I skipped the second phase, to be honest. I would have to fight him again and maybe re-rank him, but for now, he's C tier. The first of the old heart bosses, the Coral King, Big Krusty himself. I think he's a B. I don't think he was overly complicated, but I think the reason he's not overly complicated was the gauntlet leading up to him is probably the hardest gauntlet in the game. I would say it might be harder than the conductor melody. It's close. His fight is all about positioning. He shoots like big coral spikes out of the ground or out of the ceiling, and then you have to move yourself accordingly, and then the further the fight goes on, it gets faster and faster, so you have to position yourself a little sooner. I would say biggest complaint I had about his fight is the further you get into the fight, chances to attack him because of how much the coral is on the screen become less and less and less. Honestly, by a decent margin, he's my least favorite of the old heart bosses, and he's still B rank, so that tells you how good the rest of them are. Oh, I forgot this was a boss. The white stag in Verdania. This boss literally has one attack. All this boss does is shoot out 4 projectiles at you that boomerang around and then teleports away, and then it does that again, and then it does that again, and then you hit it a bunch, and then it shoots like 6 projectiles instead of 4. They're not for me, you know. I want to press some buttons. I need to be moving. Other boss of Verdania though, oh baby, the Clover Dancers. When you get to fight the Cogwork Dancers in their prime. Everything I said about the Cogwork Dancers applies even more here. Every single attack perfectly telegraphed. They make the attack from Cogwork Dancers where they dance in the middle that was completely safe to heal on and was your opportunity to regain some footing. They take that away completely. It's now an attack you have to actively run around and dodge, and is actually probably the hardest attack they have to dodge now. S tier, easy. Guardian Seth could go A tier. For anyone who doesn't know the story, there was a Hollow Knight fan, a young kid who was sick, and his dream was to have his character in the game. I think Team Cherry met him, got the design. Unfortunately, he did pass away before Silksong came out, but they did take his design and put him in the game, and that is Seth. Seth has a pretty wide moveset, throws the shield around, can cover a lot of distance on the screen. Phase 2, he can extend everything he does in phase 1, plus adds a jumping explosion dive that you have to get out of the way of. He can do it 3 times, he can do it 1 time, makes you react different ways. I enjoyed my time with the Seth fight. A tier, fantastic boss. And then immediately after Seth, which was a big surprise to me in-game, because I was like, oh, I just fought a boss. There's no way I'm fighting another boss. You get Nihilith. I really like Nihilith. The only boss in the game where you have to fight completely by using wall cling and pogoing, because in the second phase of her fight, she breaks the floor. Her arena has 2 walls on either side, and then you have to jump over by either pogoing on her or dashing over and floating over, avoiding her attacks at the same time. And with the way her attacks work, with the different projectiles, the explosions she creates, barely gives you enough room to get through to the other side a lot of the time, but there is enough room, and it feels really, really good to do. She also gives you plenty of opportunities to do damage to her. I'm gonna leave her an A for now, but she might be S. It's time. My favorite boss in the game, Scar Singer Carmelita, baby. The fight with her is perfection. She has a wide variety of attacks that are all well telegraphed, 3 phases that all build upon the attacks, plenty of opportunities to attack if you take them. They're not huge windows, but they're there. And once you learn how her attacks flow, you can kind of dash through the saws, you can dash over the spikes she makes on the floor, you can pogo her while she's sliding on the floor. The music is perfect, her aesthetic is perfect. Chef's kiss. Best fight in the game. I don't even think it's close, in my opinion. Which brings us to the last boss of the game. I have a love-hate opinion with Lost Lace. So when I first started fighting Lost Lace, I really didn't like the fight. I thought it was worse than Lace 2. I didn't like the visuals of the fight. I thought it was hard to see what was going on because basically everything is void and covered in void, and she shoots void, void shoots out of the ground, void shoots out of the ceiling. Then there's a fake out midway through the fight when you know she's not dead. Grandmommy Silk starts doing stuff, so your attention is there, and then a wall of void comes and hits you, and that happened to me the first time, and I didn't know it was happening, and I died. So that frustrated me a lot. But the more I did the fight and was able to like understand the visuals, when I could attack, when I couldn't attack, when I needed to spend my time dodging, think she's S tier. By the end of it, she was a very, 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 very strong final boss. It was a build upon the first 2 Lace fights. She kept all of her attacks from the first 2 fights, increased in speed even from the second fight, added more moves on top of it that had the void infection. She had the void tendrils, 4 different endings to her dash attack, so you had to be prepared to react to any of those. If you're getting all these dodges and finding the openings to hit her, it is one of the most satisfying fights. It is just the hardest fight in the game. As the last boss, she should be the hardest fight. I think this looks right. I think we'll lock it in. If anybody disagrees, you're just wrong, honestly. This is a flawless tier list.